My name is Veda Ramdass. I'm the host of the UWI.Film podcast. Today we have two Year 1 UWI students who are involved in the film production program, and they're going to talk about their two films.
My name is Joseph Brown. I'm the writer and director of Metamorphosis.
My name is Leonov Norbert. I'm the editor of Unopened.
And you all are in?
Year 1.
Yeah. Nice. So, first questions first. What piqued your interest in pursuing a film production course?
Well, it all started when I was younger. So I used to read a lot, and originally I wanted to become an author. So, just wanted to write novels, but I was like, wow, this takes very long. So then I said, okay, I could write scripts. But then if I write scripts, I need to make movies. And well, I've made my first short film, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to pursue.
For me, it was in sixth form when I was doing economics. I discovered, I like making films with the film club, and then I wanted to do that in UE. And when I came to UE, I was like, no, don't do film as a degree. You won't make any money. So she wanted me to do economics. Eventually, I came to a decision with her to do a double major in economics and film, and that's how I got to be here.
So, in terms of both of you, it stemmed out of a need of passion and something that you all thought would be different and unique.
Yeah.
Right. I think with you, in terms of the writing, was it something more imaginative then?
Yeah, because when I read, well, I mean, I still read it. So when I was younger, when I read it, I used to see everything in front of me. So so I feel like when I started writing scripts, I was like, no, I want to make this into something. And then, well, that is when I started writing. It's like about 4 years now, 5 years.
In terms of you, in a good way, I mean, I do understand that having something to back up is good, but also taking a risk is also interesting in itself. But then, I understand why she said do economics, because, money is money. We have to make money. What are some of the challenges you all experienced in doing this film production? And how you all overcame it?
I think one of the biggest challenges, as it does on any film set, is time. Time was of the essence. Time was not our friend. But we make it work. We made it work. The only other challenge we had was that we didn't get to be on the location prior to the shoot. So setting up like all the lighting and how we were going to get the sound from the actors with like the boom mic and stuff took a little while to set up. But other than that, we finished in the time that we thought we were going to finish. So,
Question in terms of that, like, how was that? Like, you all had to make calls and stuff before to use the space?
Yeah, because it was actually the house of one of the girls that was on the crew.
Okay.
Yeah, so she allowed us to use our house. Thank God for that. And the first day we went was the day we had to shoot.
Oh,
so,
God, I can imagine how much challenges that was to get everybody on time and then to like shoot the whole thing and then.
Yeah, it was.
I can only imagine what that must felt.
I think for us, with the same time challenges, and communication was a big one in our
Yes,
group.
I was not going to ask, did communication work out? Because time was a big,
So a lot of our group members, they have jobs, they're part-time students, so a lot of times they couldn't make it to set. And we were filming in 2 different locations across multiple days. And then on top of that, the locations were Eastgates and somewhere else. So each time we needed to, email and call ahead for permission. And once we would get permission, then organize the people who could come, when they could come. Everybody needed to collect a pass, and then we needed to go and film on the day.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, and setting up that was super stressful, especially with the lack of communication, but other than that, it was a good experience.
Elements, like rain and things, all that affect on there?
Yes.
Well, we didn't have rainy day we were shooting, so it was just sunshine. Thank God.
We were filming in a forest for another scene.
Oh, that's
the
very
hot
interesting.
sun and rain in the same day, Trinidad weather. So everybody was hungry and tired, and we just had to make it through the day.
Goodness, it sounds like if you all went through a lot to create this.
We did.
I think you all did a good job. I think they did great. Yeah,
I would like
give
to think
yourself a
so.
nice clap.
Yeah,
Yes,
I would
yes,
like
yes.
to think so.
Brace elements. How long does it take to make one of these? To create one of these?
I think it depends on
The type?
not necessarily. Yes, but I think it more depends on the cohesiveness of the group. How fast all they could get everything together. Because I think you guys said you finished filming in a day.
Yeah, it was one day, so I feel like once everybody put their best foot forward, it was, we could have overcome those time challenges that we had. So it ended up working out. It ended up working out because everybody played their part,
yes.
played their
And
role.
that's important.
Yeah.
Teamwork was the main
Yeah,
aim of the whole
yeah.
production,
So
basically.
we took about 8 hours.
Right. Not
Yeah.
that my group wasn't teamwork, but they all had their own lives, you know,
Yeah.
stuff to do.
People
So
had
instead
their
of
own-
one
yeah.
day as well, we took about 2 to 3 weeks to finish
That
filming
sounds
in
very
general.
interesting.
So yeah.
Question, like, what is your film about? What was the idea that came out of it? What was the theme?
Well, our film was about a father who turned into a lagahu, and when his daughter come outside to discover that her father is not who she thought he was, and well, this was actually from a conversation that she had beforehand with her sister. So yeah, she was talking about how daddy been strange and whatnot, and that's when it is at the end of the movie we find out that he's a lagahu.
So it's like a discovery then.
Yeah, yeah.
A
essentially.
reveal.
A reveal.
A
A big
reveal.
reveal at the
A
end,
reveal,
essentially.
crazy.
So ours was about 2 friends. They were pretty good friends. I'm not too sure about the friends part, but they were walking home from school one day and they found this box that could duplicate anything you put inside of it. It's pretty cool. So the first thing, as anybody would do, you know, they put money inside
Of
of
course,
it.
of course. So we have
And-
to. We have to
right,
test that
right,
out.
Right. And they try and they go and spend all the money all over the place, not realizing that the money, you know, takes away years of their life when they duplicate something. So that point of the story, I believe, was to teach people about greed and valuing what you have rather than just, you know, multiplying money in a box and then you don't have any life left.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess both in its own way had a certain message.
Yeah, well, I feel like our film, well, when I wrote it, it was to highlight that the folklore, because we have a lot of folklore characters in Trinidad, and I mean, other than carnival characters, we don't really, I don't really see,
Yeah.
at least me personally, I don't really see much representation of it, and that is what stemmed me to decide. I think this is what.
But especially with your one, although it involved a carnival character and it required, well, a folklore character, right? It still had a purpose
Yeah,
or a
essentially.
reason for that particular character.
Yeah.
Because in my head, although the daughter believed that her father wasn't what he said he was,
Right.
in her mind, he presented an image of himself to her.
Right, yeah.
So that is says also in society as well with father figures in general. To one side they put on for their family, and then the next side they become a
The
different.
difference,
Yeah,
yeah,
and all that stems out of like our shared history and things like that
Yeah.
with colonialism and things like that. Same thing with yours as well. Although it's not related to colonialism and like involved any folklore, it still carried a message about greed and about wasting away life, and that is something in Trinidad, you know. We want to go, we want to land, we want to do all this, and then at the end of the day, what useful things did we contribute, you know, what do we want to have our name linked to? That is what I'm getting from both. Is that what you all wanted to?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay, good. What is the reason for you all creating these types of productions? You know, what is the end goal for the Caribbean in relation to these stories?
Okay, well, so the original reason, you know, for my
Of course,
but
of course.
for
Possible
the end
greed.
goal, possible greed. For the end goal of the Caribbean, what you were saying, I think It really was to make a learning experience for us as growing filmmakers to come back and contribute to society when we graduate or somewhere along the way and gain enough skill to really add to the country. You know, as you said with the folklore and whatever else, because people abroad, they wouldn't know these legends
they would not.
or anything.
And I think at the end of the day, as creatives, we are the messengers. We carry the message so people could be aware of their own environment, their own space. What can they do to improve themselves by seeing themselves in creative forms? Because we have been affected a lot by a lot of influences, and they gave us a tool called creativity, and we need to use it. I'm not saying against them. Oh come on, we would have something negative
but
for
to
them
the best
too.
of our
But
ability.
for the best of our ability as well. Yeah, I find being a creative is fun. You know?
It is.
Yeah?
It is.
Yeah? Sweet. I mean, economics is good too. We had to count up all that money,
Yeah.
especially
That
all
we're
the
gonna making
elections,
films.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully Auntie Cams give us funding.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
Right, as budding filmmakers in this course, right? What are some words of advice you would give to students wanting to pursue this course?
I mean, especially for me, I'm imagining talking to my younger self here. A lot of them would probably think, you know, it's not profitable or it's not making any sense to come to film school, or they don't even know it have film in UWI here, because I didn't. But what I would say to that is, even if you don't think you could do it, I still think every single person could try and make something. And somewhere along the way, you'll start to enjoy it, and that will build on its own.
In this course, what are some words of advice you would give to individuals wanting to pursue film?
So I think I would be talking to the people who probably didn't even know film was a degree right now, or thinking it's not going to make a lot of money, which I can't speak for at the moment. But I think what everybody should do is everybody would have something they like or something they want to show the world deep down. So I think all of them, what they could do is they could just start, even if it's just a recording of you drinking coffee in the morning, something like that. It might inspire somebody else to do something, and that's the way I think everybody could grow as filmmakers, and we as a country could grow like that too.
Yes, I agree.
I think a lot of what he said just now, when it is, he said, set up a camera, show you drinking coffee, because I mean, a lot of short films on YouTube, you see just 3 minutes, 3 minutes and 23 seconds is just simple things, simple everyday things, and people, you grow from there, you work with the gear you have. The best gear is what the ones you have, literally, yeah.
So using the people around you and using your environment plays an important role in executing film and coming up with stories as well in your own space. Question: do you all see yourselves using other creative forms or aspect of creative expression in film production in the near future?
Of course. I think we have to do a screenwriting course later on, as you were saying, you know, a writer. So that is one form of expression, but me personally, I play a lot of instruments, a few instruments. So obviously I use them when I'm making anything for the film. Any sounds, I would try to include what I can, or mix a sound or anything like that. That's one thing I would use.
That sounds really cool. But like thinking off of that, would you like see yourself using like visual arts in film production,
Like these
those.
Yeah, I probably would maybe mix a set similar and have a podcast myself. But, yeah.
In terms of music, as you said, do you see like dance being a part of your creative form of expression in film production?
It would depend on the film, because me personally, if I was making a more serious film, maybe I wouldn't include like a Parsi theater kind of dance in the middle of it. But I think so, yeah. I love dance as a form of expression. I think I could include it in a film,
Yeah. That's really cool. Because like I was thinking with the one you did with the folklore, the character. I think other forms of expression could help further boost that particular story if you all want to.
No, yeah, I agree, yeah. Because I feel like art is as it's mentioned, visual arts, art is it's something that we use in everyday life. You see everywhere, anything could be art, and I think that is, art is almost like, a film is almost like a moving picture. Well, it is a moving picture.
Yeah.
It is a moving picture, but a moving painting, a moving drawing, you know?
Okay, so I want to thank you all for being a part of this.
No problem.
And for your experience. I hope you all continue doing film, because film is really cool.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Fine.
Bye.
Continuing now with year 2 UWI students.
Hi, my name is Holly Lewis. My film for documentary cinema is called The Painter, the Poet, and the Avant-Garde.
And my name is Leonard Lewis, and my documentary is called The Carnival of Horns.
So, what was documentary cinema like? What was your experience in the course itself?
This was by far probably the hardest course I've ever done. I mean, it was my longest film, so it's a year-long course, like we said. So first semester, it was a lot of different. We were learning basically the theory of it all, and then we had to learn how to use it practically. So we had like 4 films that were like 5 to 10 minutes, and that was like some of my, like the period where we had to do probably our most intensive set of practical work, and that was a lot. But this semester was absolutely crazy. My documentary is 38 minutes long, so and I've never done anything that long, and it was just really, really stressful.
Oh, is it fun though?
It was absolutely fun, but
Okay,
it was
cool.
and it was a topic I was really interested in and I was really passionate about, but it was a challenging task. But it made me a better filmmaker, and I'm definitely more equipped now to take on longer things.
I think to add what Harry mentioned earlier, documentary course is actually, I think it was a lesson in resilience. This was definitely by far one of the hardest semester 1 and semester 2. Although semester 1 was easier than this particular semester, because what we did was the groundwork for what we actually did here. Like Harry mentioned earlier on, this is the longest feature we ever did. My documentary as well was 32 minutes. Prior to that, we had 4 documentaries between the length of 5 and 10 minutes. So this was actually, for me, a lesson in resilience,
Really
because
tough.
we had
Yeah.
many
Oh my
challenges that we
goodness.
actually had to pivot.
But
and
you all
learn
made it
from.
through, guys.
Yeah,
you all
we
made
did.
it through.
We did.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yes, yes. So in terms of like what are your both favorite type of documentary style of filming?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because you all
I'm-
mentioned a lot about, it's a lot of theories, a lot of reading.
Yeah, a lot of different like modes of cinema. So I really liked the expository one because I had done mine on like a costume design, and I really love costume design, like production design and stuff. So I was just really excited to delve into that. And I think you can just do a lot with that very simple voice of God sort of voiceover style.
Similarly, mine was expository. What's a narrative from the voice of God, but with that expository style, you can do a lot like Annie mentioned.
Right. When people think about documentary, they think a lot about scientific
Yes.
forms of documentary. What do you all have to, as filmmakers, would want to change in that regard, or that in terms of that perspective then?
You want to touch on
It, when you mention the word documentary, it is definitely seated in research,
Right.
meaning
Yes.
grounded in some form of factual
Yeah.
information. With that said, not all, well, depending on the mood
Yeah.
of the documentary and the director, that will determine whether the documentary is biased
Or not.
or unbiased.
yeah.
Because the director basically determines what direction in terms of the information he presents and how he presents it, whether the
No.
yeah, based on the information presented, whether what direction the documentary actually
I know
goes.
that part when you said that is a crucial part of a documentary, because then it could sway public opinions into certain narratives and then people could go with just that information alone without doing further research into,
Which often
yeah.
people do.
which is true.
Yes.
Which is very true.
Yeah.
Um,
And we kind of, I can't remember the exact quotation of it, but documentary is a treatment of reality. So it's not, we wouldn't really call it from a place of complete objectivity. It's always looking from the lens of the person who's making the film and what they want you to be fed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we also learn in classes that also the information that you present to the audience is also the information that they do
Don't
not
share.
present to
Yes.
the audience. So they
Exactly.
can sway
Yeah.
their thoughts and decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you're, even if you're interviewing somebody and you're getting their perspective, the way that you might light somebody can, give off a different vibe. You can make somebody
yeah.
look crazy. You can make them look more put together, depending on what you have them wear, the set. It's a lot of
It's a lot of
things you can
truths.
manipulate.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of truths that could be twisted and
Exactly,
molded.
which is why you kind of have to be a reliable filmmaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping
Yeah.
that there are a lot more reliable accountability, not just in film but in media.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And to add to what Hattie just mentioned, simple as the writing.
Yeah.
Simple as the writing, just how we light the characters on scene, similar to like a thin blue line. Depending on the writing, you can make it look sinister, you can make the crowd see the frame and just fall in love with it or instantly hate it, depending on the
Absolutely,
writing.
and they're completely unaware of it, which is what's so crazy. Like,
Yeah.
because we study it, we're so conscious of it, but an audience will never really know how they know somebody is the villain. But it's always something
Something
like
there.
something that we've manipulated.
And it's something that we have purposely
Done.
manipulated.
Oh, interesting. That's similar like in theater as well, in terms of lighting and character development.
There you go.
So yeah, I think we're linked to other arts as well, which is good.
Definitely.
Which
Yes.
is like interesting,
Yeah.
because it's like this one is more of like more in motion,
Yeah.
which is like cool.
It is cool. I feel like all the arts kind of meld together.
Yeah, we blend well.
Yeah.
We blend well. What are some of the reasons for doing documentary cinema? Your own reasons. Why?
My own reasons. I mean, can I be honest? I had to do the course.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the reasons, but I was definitely really interested in the research part of it. That definitely has a close place in my heart, just because I was also a person who delved in all kind of things. So I was like a literature student. I also did business. I also did art and science and math and everything. So I always had an interest about the world, and I feel like documentary, you can kind of
Get
you can make
aspects of
films
it.
about anything. That's what I love
Yeah.
about film, is that film is just like a study of life. So
Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay.
sorry,
What are some of the reasons for you of doing documentary cinema? Why?
Because I had to. one,
Okay.
And particularly in terms of finding funding and stuff for movies, I think documentary right now is one of the best ways
That's true.
to get funding for any project.
That's interesting.
The government or the film city and the film industry in Trinidad tends to fund things that
Particularly carries the narrative, you can say.
particularly
Yes,
carries a
carry
narrative
the narrative.
that
Perhaps.
would promote the country or
Positively.
Positive.
Yes,
Yeah.
positively. Let's just keep it positive.
But more than that, I mean, like, documentary is, like, closest to life, I would say. So, like, there's not a whole, like, with narrative cinema, there's, like, the big old sets and the this, and you have to decide what everybody is, like, specifically wearing, go and pick out every little thing. Documentary, yeah, there's some, like, there's manipulation, but if it's of, like, the real life things. The things that are already
in you. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Documentary does capture life raw in itself compared to narrative, which not really manipulates, but creates a whole new world and a whole new.
That's a good way to put it.
What are some words of advice you would give to those doing this particular course?
Leonard, you got that one.
For people attempting this particular course, in year one, particularly pay attention to all the theories that are being taught.
Yeah.
During year one, while we're doing our assignments, you might think these things irrelevant and they're just not needed, but pay close attention to the theories that are being taught, because every single theory that we were taught in year one is what we was forced to use in year two.
Exactly.
So it's like
It's
an
a build-up.
application then.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's like you learn it, but then you have
You
to
have to
apply it.
practically. Exactly.
So where could budding film enthusiasts do to create their own documentary style of film without knowing these theories? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would add on to like what Joseph and them said. It's just like picking up a camera and choosing a subject. The big one, the difference between narrative still also involves research, because a lot of them is rooted in reality and real things. But it definitely you need to up your skills on research. But if you're doing a simple topic, I mean, documentaries can be about anything. It can be about like
your morning
your
routine.
dog's, your
morning
dog's daily
routine.
routine, or something like that. So do that.
I think the big difference between documentary and narrative, you could look through different lens of what you see in reality to be played in a fictional way to get a message across. But with documentary, it's like you're taking the raw and you're trying to get a truth out of the raw information, of the research.
Well, yeah, that's true. I think sometimes people with documentary have to be careful, because you can fabricate truth for sure. Narrative, and from like the theory that we've had to read and stuff, I realized documentary and fiction, they're not that much different.
No, they're not.
Because a lot of the time filmmakers treat them the same.
Yeah.
In terms of like the manipulation.
The manipulation of things. But I think with narrative you can manipulate a lot more
probably
than documentary.
Definitely.
I think particularly with this generation of people, everybody's a filmmaker, whether or not they know it, right? Because everybody have access to a phone. Those recording something or taping something. Most of the times when we tape something or put up something on Instagram or TikTok, unknowingly to the person who's doing the footage, they're following certain theories that they're unaware of. So everybody's a filmmaker, they're just unaware that there are certain theories
involved in it.
But they actually follow some of them and unaware that they're doing it.
I just quickly wanted to say, like, in terms of the advice, is to, like Leonard was saying, learn those theories, because I think a misconception about art is that, like, there's no base, right? And the reason that I could say, like, I'm a better filmmaker and a better artist, because I also, like, learned fine art and stuff, is you're learning the movements, the art movements. You're learning the different techniques. You're learning from different people and their different techniques, you know? And you're just kind of like, it does become kind of a mosh pit. Just a mix of all of the different things that you learn from from the professionals who have also learned the theory.
Yeah, I think we needed to get that out. We have theory involved in film.
Yeah.
Have theory
Come on,
involved in
guys.
other creative spaces as
Yeah,
well.
Exactly. We don't just like pull everything out of our hats.
And
Like,
to add to that, I'm also an artist, so the theory thing is very important. And once we have theory down, we could bend the rules.
exactly.
Yes.
That's facts.
Not understanding the theory and then trying to bend
To-
the rules.
to-
and then collaborate.
Exactly.
But once we know the theory down, we could at least bend the rules and change them up a little bit because we have a structure.
Yes,
to it.
I agree.
Facts.
Ah. So in the next 5 years, where do you all see documentaries filmmaking
For us?
For
or
us, for you all, and
okay.
for future?
I have to think of my answer. You have one or?
I need to think of my answer too.
Okay, let me think. In the next 5 years, I would like to do kind of like some mini docs probably on different things. Because like I said, I did like costume designer, so I honestly was thinking maybe do like a costume designer like series or whatever. I don't know who would watch it, but I would watch it.
Aw. Girl, I
and-
would watch it too, don't worry.
blank screen. And then just like anything that interests me. So I mean, film is a big one, obviously.
Yeah.
But just anything about life that I think is interesting, I would make just like mini docs. I don't know if I'll be a documentary maker like
okay.
that.
But using elements of documentary
of-
cinema
yeah,
is
for
something you
sure.
would.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's cool is that we learned that you can use documentary in fiction as well. So I wouldn't mind doing that at all. And
I'd like
You
to
know,
see
like
what that looks
the mosh
like.
pit. Yeah, there's so many different films if like that we had to learn and like talk about that. Always mix that fiction with the
With documentary.
yeah.
In terms of your film, like, what is it about? Like in general, what is it about?
So my film is about it's exploring the evolution of different art fields. So I took it back to maybe like the 19th, 20th century. And like what the movements looked like then and what was considered rebellious in like the fields of art then and what's considered rebellious now and like if
It's like
exploration has
a
been
progression
exhausted
then.
and, yeah, exactly.
A progression.
Yeah.
In terms of that, I'm just suggesting. I don't know if it's possible,
No,
but
tell
like,
me.
if with your one, could you like how you did it, like in a progression? Could you like followed like a student in a particular like art field and like measure their progress?
That's exactly. Well,
Okay,
I didn't do
well,
a
you measured their
student,
progress,
but
but-
I chose two different artists from the same field. So, for an example, for two-dimensional art, I chose Vincent Van Gogh because he's a very popular name. Everybody's heard of him, so I figured that he would be an interesting subject to choose. And then I also chose Irene Shaw, who was my a very famous artist in Trinidad, but
Oh,
also
see, look at
my upper
Oh,
six
it's-
teacher who I loved and like looked up to. So, and I just kind of had what was really supposed to happen was I was supposed to do sort of like a reenactment of Vincent Van Gogh where he's not back alive, but it's almost like we're having an interview with him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I
that's
did
interesting.
research on like his letters and stuff like that to kind of get his voice out. And we'll see if I can make some edits. I might have a different cut coming.
Okay.
But, yeah.
But that sounds very interesting. That definitely sounds interesting. It's like you're letting their voice be heard then.
Yeah, exactly. And he was a big pusher for like different types of art. We can see that his art is very different from the kind of traditionalism of the time. So I feel like he was just speaking for us back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
My film is called Carnival of Horns, which actually started off as a kind of in-class joke because just mentioning some stuff in class randomly
Yeah.
and started off as a in-class joke. So the Carnival of Horns is actually an investigation into the act of infidelity in Trinidad and Tobago. As we know it, horning.
Yeah.
The name Carnival of Horns is actually a play on words. It's not actually Carnival of Horns. It's just
Yeah, I'm getting
play
it.
on words. And what the documentary actually speaks about or explores is infidelity or horning culture in Trinidad and Tobago.
So, like, in terms of both of your styles of documentary cinema, it's very, I would say both are very like heavy in like its choice of topic, but it also carries a good message and a progressive kind of critical thinking type of message in terms of like bringing awareness to issues like infidelity. And I really like your one a lot too, Ali, in terms of like the progressive type, because it's more dealing with revolutionary kind of development, because it went to the past and then it went to the present and it went back to the past and then it went back to the present. So I'm really interested to see how that would look. I don't say you was not interested.
No,
like it's cool.
I'm so interested.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm really, really interested in seeing Harry's
Yeah.
movie. She knows that.
You're so nice. Yeah, no, he's so. I'm also really interested in his because I mean, like, horny is not. It's kind of one of those taboo topics that, like, you know, everybody's very like hush hush, but in his film we get to like see people who have like you know experienced this. So.
Okay, so.
No, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Actually, I kind of try to approach the movie from an angle that persons don't know what horning is. So start off by explaining the meaning of the word horning as opposed to Trinidad language and twang, and then have a little one or two experts going into the historical aspects, then gender aspects, and then
like the theory behind it.
Behind the
so
word
it's
itself.
not just about horning and
Cool.
the act of horning. Should be very enlightening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be
Very
very
enlightening.
very. I'm very interested to see both of your documentary style films. And bye, guys.
Hi.
It was amazing.
Bye.
Thank you.
Right, so now we have year 3 final film students, capstone students. We have
Cherise Green, the director of Call of the Tide.
Jonathan Blackman, I'm the screenwriter for Call of the Tide.
Right, so main question, what is it like in your final year? What are your like experiences that were enjoyable in making this film?
I wouldn't say the entire experience was enjoyable, but yes, there are enjoyable experiences. It's very hectic. It is a film set, so it's expected to be very hectic. But I mean, I feel like the experience is probably one of the best experiences throughout the 3 years of the film program, because you're actually getting to do your first big film with your classmates that you had since year one. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. We shot on the beach, that was fun by itself, but yeah, I agree with Cherise where it is very hectic. This project it took a lot out of us. It was a lot of moving parts, other things we had to do, you know. Things don't always go as planned, so you have to adapt to it. But overall, I would say it is overall one of the better experiences I've had, I would say. And at the very least, very educational, which is no point.
Right, in terms of being year 3s, did it have like instances where like people like wanted to leave or like, you know, felt overwhelmed at certain points, or were like you all strong and collective? I believe you all look collective. I believe it was amazing because you all said you had a nice experience.
Well,
Any challenges then? Challenges is what I'm trying to get at.
well, it's 90% challenges, but I feel like that's with most films, I would say, where we certainly had our moments where we were very overwhelmed. I can speak to myself as the writer. I was thinking, you know, since a lot of pre-production was just me sitting behind the screen, just trying to make sure everything made sense, trying to go over everything. It's like, okay, let me make sure that this all lines of hit, this makes sense, all the typical writer anxieties that I usually have. And of course, I was on set for a few of the days, and that experience, too, was very just trying to, we're chasing the light, I guess, before it goes away. Yeah, there are those moments where just like.
And it seems you all had a lot of fun doing this project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah?
we did because at the end of the day, I feel like we were classmates first before we were co-workers.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think we had like we all knew each other's strong suits and we took advantage of that for this film. So it made it easier for us to get through the process.
Yeah.
Of making it,
Yeah.
of teamwork. I think communication in like all the aspects of the courses are like very important in film. And it looked like you all had a lot of communication to be done. And it would look like it was a lot of work, but I think with perseverance, as you all said, it was great. It was great.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
At the end of the day, the ending product will always show.
Right. In terms of the film, what is it about?
So, Call the Tide is essentially a tragic romance story between a doctor named Michael who returns home after his father's death to go back to his hometown, his old fishing village where he grew up. And there he meets Alyssa, a lifeguard who he falls in love with, and the two begin a whirlwind romance. But unbeknownst to Michael, Alyssa is a mermaid, a decades-old mermaid, a creature of the sea, who kind of has like an instinct to like go under the shore and like meet people and mate with men. So it kind of shows like the beginning and like the tragic end of their relationship, how the things that make them who they are and that bring them together will eventually pull them apart.
Interesting. What made you all think of that idea, of that concept?
So the original idea, I bounced it around with our producer, and what we focused on was, at first we decided to we knew we wanted to tell kind of like a twist on a typical romance, but we weren't sure what that would be. So I had the idea. Something I like a lot is like stories about like sea creatures and stuff. I like stories about that. The stories like Creature of the Black Lagoon, films like that. So one day I was having this conversation with one of our lecturers, and she brought up the idea of like the Irish myth of the Selkie. And the idea of the Selkie is that it's a kind of like a seal-like creature that comes to shore and turns into a woman. It's like it sheds its seal skin and becomes a woman when it goes on land. And it has like the predetermined instinct to like go on shore, marry men, and mate with them. But after 7 years, they have to go back to the sea. So they have to do that. So what we did, the idea that we came up with was that we took that idea of like the Irish myth of the Selkie and married it with our Caribbean like visuals and ideas of mermaids. So we use that as the point, and to make an analogy about people getting into romantic relationships that you're excited in, like that kind of whirlwind honeymoon phase of romance. But as time goes on, like the things that kind of like make people come together, those romances kind of pull them apart. So like how people grow together and grow apart in relationships was kind of the key point of it, the key thematic point.
The key aspect of the story.
Yeah.
Okay. But why on romance?
We went with romance because we kind of bounced it around for a while. We had some issues at first coming up with a solid concept, so we thought like we didn't want to go the traditional route because a lot of capstones before us kind of veered towards horror and like more like traditional darker stories. So we wanted to do something that was a bit lighter but still had like a real emotional weight to it. So we kind of wanted to do something different and go like out of our comfort zones, because in previous assignments that we've done, we've already like kind of veered towards like thriller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you kind of like wanted to tap into that more humor and kind of, I don't want to say necessarily sappy, but that kind of like a different type of story.
More, yeah, I would say more emotional, but not just emotional, more, I don't know how to phrase it, more like introspective then,
Yeah.
in terms of like what a relationship of that nature would look like from a more narrative point of view. In the Caribbean. In the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's a thing that one of our lecturers that always stuck with me, Lynn, that she brought up in one of our classes, Caribbean 2, I believe, Caribbean cinema, was that in the Caribbean, kind of a weird relationship with intimacy and relationships,
Yes.
especially on screen. So that was one thing that always stuck with me, and that we brought up in discussing this idea, like to show like actual intimacy, that kind of delicate love that people can have that goes beyond, like superficial things.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of Caribbean
Carib-
love stories.
no, there
Right, in
isn't.
general.
There isn't.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why is because love in the Caribbean is like a bit touchy
Yeah.
and involves a lot of emotional things involved for both male and females
Yeah.
that they don't like. They would rather express it privately than want to see exactly how they could view themselves then and like form better ways of connection, because we came out of a system of oppression, and to create better connections is difficult. So I think this film in its fictional form would bring to light a lot of emotions involved in both of the characters in relation to how they would express themselves Caribbean-wise. So I'm kind of excited to see this and to see what it would look like, especially in terms of the mermaid, how we will get fins and all these props and things. What was that process like?
Well, there's no like visual representation of the mermaid. It's more of kind of just the story of it and the voiceovers, the visuals. It's for the audience to interpret that she is a mermaid or she's a selkie.
Oh, so it involves a lot of scenes where you go by the ocean,
yeah.
to the rocks, thing.
Yeah.
But I think it would be really cool though if she was in like a nice mermaid suit, like how they had Ariel,
Like it's something we thought about too is like how do we visually represent it,
Yeah.
and our director decided to go for the more subtle
Subtle?
direction.
I would agree subtlety is good in terms of like getting the idea of it. Oh, she's something involved with the sea. She has a lot of
Giving the audience
connection
something
to the
think about.
ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would have been nice if she had a, I would not really like the tail and thing, but like, oh my god, skin is like,
Yeah.
okay, it have things like that. Okay, I'm just asking.
No.
No, okay, never mind.
No.
Never mind. She just becomes a full-on human.
No. She comes out of the water, and by then we could see that, she's human. She's ready to mate. She's ready to find somebody, make kids, go.
Okay, go back in the sea.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. In the next 5 years, where do you all see film?
I would like to say I see film like more prominent in the Caribbean. If we're just speaking about the Caribbean itself, I would like to see more directors, more different aspects of film that's not saturated, like stunt coordinators and intimacy coordinators.
Yeah.
Things to do with like producing. We have a lot of producers, but we don't have a lot of producers at the same time because there's a lot of not big companies, but medium-sized companies that take over a lot of the films in Trinidad. Especially.
Really? I didn't know. I would not know.
Yeah.
I'm just asking, like, what is that like?
So I just more like individual films being produced and being put out there in the world, because nobody really watches Caribbean. Like, how many people here does watch Caribbean films?
I mean, we have Caribbean films here.
But how many people
True.
do exactly?
True, that is true. So
And that's just here alone.
right. In what ways do you think we could promote more local films here to raise more awareness of it?
I think part of the issue is that a lot of our own local films struggle to get distribution in our own cinemas. So that would help a lot if like the powers that be would allow things to be easier to get our local films into the hands of the public. Like, just seeing a film being accessible in like Trinity Mall and like in like Movie Town or Cinemas 8, just there, getting it more out to the public like that would be very beneficial to it. Of course, if we had more marketing budgets focused on marketing and pushing the film out to people. Of course, social media campaigns, but social media can only do so much.
True. Well, in terms of that, what I was thinking is that, as you said, in terms of it coming more out to the public, that is a good way. But also, I think if we start here at UWI, we could get more people on the general student body to look at films. Yeah. If we probably talk to the principal, maybe, but yeah, and try to encourage a lot more students to come to the film department and see what films look like, and not just in terms of normal general, but also in other creative fields as well, because if we do involve other fields, I think we could get more eyes on film and more collaboration to better the whole creative department, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Because everyone I've met who's outside of film, outside of the FHE department, once we bring them in and they see film, they're like, why have I never heard about this
Yeah,
department?
they don't care about the film.
No, they don't.
Their minds are blown and they're like, this is the best class I've ever been in.
Yeah. Nobody knows about film. Nobody knows that UWI does film or that the Caribbean offers film courses until you tell them. And then they're like, oh, they're offering film? And it's like,
yeah, we've been
film,
doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, we need to be more out there because not a lot of people are aware, and not a lot of people are aware that they could get an education in it either. So.
Right, in terms of the film now, how long did it take to put all this together?
Production was 4 days.
Oh.
4.5 days.
Well, okay.
Yeah. Pre-production.
Pre-production was about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks. In terms of as you said, it involved characters and going on site locations and things. What were some of the challenges in relation to those aspects of the film?
I would say transportation.
Oh, okay. Well, I was not going to say the same thing because they had to go to the beach.
Yeah.
They had to go to the beach.
Yeah, and it wasn't the nearest beach either. Not all of us don't have vehicles, so we had to, carpool, meet at somebody's place, and then there's early call time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, very early call times,
Yeah. So I would say the biggest challenge would have been transportation, but only because not everybody had
a vehicle, right?
Yeah. But we still got there, and we still made it happen. There was also rain.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
I
So we
wasn't
had
there
to
for
deal
that day,
with
so.
we had to try and defeat that too, but I think this was actually one of the most easy time constraints.
Oh my God.
Time constraints with locations. So some of the locations we had to finish at a certain time. So there were points where we had to kind of rush it a little bit, so so we could get through the scenes we had to do in that day.
But in terms of that, as you said, Russian, did you during that time get nervous?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
things get messed up?
It didn't get messed up because at the end of the day I kind of knew the kind of vibe I wanted. So,
okay.
But it was a little annoying and nerve-wracking because it's I want, for me, if I don't, I have to get what I want. So if I'm not getting what I want, I'm going to get upset and be like, guys, can we please get
Lord.
this? Can we do this, please? And I don't think I've ever gotten a no, but it's still it's still nerve-wracking at the time.
But did those pieces came out how you all envisioned it? Okay, well that's great.
Well, for
Teamwork
me.
is
Teamwork.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of costuming and things like that, did it need a lot or
Now, when I was going in with the script, I knew that I didn't want anything specifically too elaborate. So when I knew I was handing it off to our costuming department, I was like, okay, there's only a few specific things I think would work here, but in terms of visuals, I would leave that in terms of our cinematographers and our director to really zero in on that for themselves.
Yeah, but with costuming and stuff, you also kind of wrote the script based on real life people already.
Yeah.
So our actors aren't professional actors. So we kind of use their personalities in the
Interesting.
script. Yeah. So
Interesting.
whatever clothes they had that was available, we made sure it matched with the scenes and we used it.
Yeah, it kept it in the Caribbean-esque
Yeah.
story.
Mhm.
The vibe, basically, the vibe. What are some of the reasons why you all wanted to produce this film?
I just want to say, like, based off what Jonathan said before, a lot of capstones in the past did a lot of thriller horrors, and even us in like year one we did thrillers and horrors.
All
so
right.
yeah, but no, that's just my take on
Okay,
it and
okay.
why we wanted to produce this one, because we just wanted to move away from that genre and kind of be different, you know.
Yeah.
Right, so what are some advice you all would give to students that want to produce films like this?
Patience.
That want to continue along film?
I would say patience, not only when you film it, but after the film too, because you can't expect everything to come to you at once.
Okay.
So patience and consistency and enthusiasm. Like, you can't expect to be in the film industry and not be enthusiastic about what you're doing.
Yeah.
True.
Another thing to kind of buff on that point is you really have to care. You cannot coast through this kind of like, oh, I'm not too concerned about this. You have to care passionately about this. You have to have the passion to see it done and the discipline to see it through. That is what you have to do to get through with this. Not just in UE, but going into the future. I'm saying this as much to you all as I am to myself.
So patience, persistence, and focus is the main driving factors in reaching and achieving this film dream.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. I didn't really get to ask, like, what interests you all into pursuing film?
Okay. I would say it's kind of been around me for years. So I had my parents' friend, she did digital media since I met her actually. So, and then I did Queen's Hall Theatre Camp almost every single summer since I was 7 years old. So there was that, and I did drama and performing arts in secondary school. So I was kind of like in that kind of
Creative space.
already. And my
Okay.
parents were very like open to it, and they, encouraged me to do it because I liked it. But I realized I didn't like being in front of the camera. I like to be behind the scenes. Yeah. So I think it was later on in secondary schools when I realized that, and I was like, okay, I want to pursue film. Found out that we had a film program, and here I am doing film. And well, my mom is also like on sets a lot, so I kind of mirror her sometimes, or like, just be around so I could understand the industry.
So being within creative spaces helped to encourage filming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, growing up, I just always loved watching all the old DVDs that my mom and dad had collected, movies on TV, or going to the cinemas. That was always something one of my favorite things to do as a kid. Growing up throughout primary school and secondary school, I also got into theater. I liked theater arts a lot. I also got into writing there, writing my own little short stories and trying to write huge novels and whatnot. I didn't always finish them, but I always tried to write a lot. Also liked reading comic books as well. Comic books were a huge inspiration for me. I'm a big nerd, if anybody would tell you that. If they know me, they'll tell you that. And as I was getting into as I got older and tried branching out to different types of films, the idea of film school didn't hit me until I had a conversation with my dad. He was like, "Why don't you love it so much? Why don't you go for it?" I'm like, yeah. So then when I was in Form 6, I found out about UWI.Film program. I was like, well, I'm gonna apply to that. I got in, and here I am. So, yeah.
Look at that, you just popped in.
It's
You made your
materialized
mark. I think you all both went through with your forms of creative expression and channel it in something you all both enjoy doing. And yeah, this film is a product of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that.
In terms of both the theater-esque elements involved in the story and then the story itself and the
Yeah.
messaging.
Yeah, especially in terms of like the tragedies. I've always had like a knack for like tragic stories. I don't know why. I've always just liked them.
I think reason why tragedy is like a type of film you may have wanted to do is because, again, we came out of a system of oppressed, of being oppressed, and it should be something that is investigated and should be acknowledged as something to improve. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I'm a hopeless romantic, so.
Yeah. I think we all have. We like rom-coms. I like rom-coms
I
too.
love rom-coms
I like rom-coms, yeah.
and dramas. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for being a part of the podcast. See you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Right. Continuing from the year 3 capstone film, these are the actors involved in the film. You are?
Alyssa.
Michael.
Right. About the film, right? What interested you both into being part of that particular film?
Well, my friends asked me if I wanted to be in it. I'm like, I read the script that Jonathan sent me, and I love Song of the Sea, and the film it's very similar to that. So I told him yes almost immediately, and then I had a love interest, so I asked her to play it, and she agreed. So it was very easy.
Okay. I think it would have been because you all seem to be very comfortable amongst your friends and it was something interesting because you read the script. So yeah, that was cool. Right. In terms of the challenges, what did you both face in terms of the characters or like?
In terms of character, not so much. I feel the directors and them let us have a lot of freedom when it came to making the lines our own. So if something wasn't really sounding like us, we could make it sound like us. The main challenge for me was the long days sometimes. Like, I think the first beach day was 12 hours.
Oh my God.
Early mornings,
Early
really
morning,
cold times.
hot sun, 12 hours straight. I think that was the hardest challenge, was the time. And how
Time.
often, because it was like,
5 days.
yeah.
5 days?
Or like, yeah, because it was 2 weeks right after each other.
Question. Did they like make you all stay on site as well? Like stay, like, how to say it? You would like go to a location, you just film at the location itself and then go. Also, you all wouldn't like stay.
No, we would just
Okay.
stay as late as possible
Oh,
and then
okay,
go back.
and then go. All right, okay, cool. Because I thought it would have been like how they do it in them real Hollywood esque, but okay, cool. You use the site location and you all just filmed and went home and yeah. Yeah, that seems more fun. In terms of the scenes you all were in, like, was it challenging or was it like natural?
I think it felt mainly natural because again, most of this film just kind of got to be ourselves, act like how we normally do. Some of these scenes, it was very, very close up. So I want to say it wasn't challenging, but it felt kind of weird at first. But then in later shooting days, we kind of got used to it. And then another challenge, I think, was keeping a straight face reading some of the lines, looking at her. Because again, we're not professional actors, so we never had to do something like this because it's our first time. So it was kind of hard. Like the first day, it took a good couple of takes to get a few lines down because we kept laughing.
God. I could imagine you laughing and then she started laughing and then it just, yeah. But that sounds fun though. And then you all just keep taking the takes all the time. Oh, that probably was tiring a bit too. In terms of costuming and like,
Costuming was mainly our own,
Oh, okay.
almost all
I think it
our
was all our
own wardrobe. Yeah,
They
just
sent
sent us.
like references.
Yeah.
oh,
And then we kind of looked to see what we had similar, and then we asked them this, that, no, yes, and then we just kind of worked from there. But I think everything.
Yeah, everything was our own. I guess props were kind of like crew and stuff, but most of it was our own wardrobe, and we were lucky enough to have everything that could fit the vibe of what they wanted to go
okay.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. I was thinking for the mermaid thing, you know, she just
Well, I don't
I
know.
wanted a tail. I suggested a tail.
I
I
really
suggested a
wanted to hear
tail.
a tail.
I saw that she was in there. I'm like, you know, it might be cool if you just buy like one of the costume tails from the mall and stuff, but didn't go through.
They didn't
so-
go, okay. Because I was asking them, they saying, well, in the film, is she a physical mermaid, at some point?
I believe in the film she's mainly human at the point in time where we get introduced to her.
Okay. Well, we shouldn't give away too much
Oh, yeah,
of it.
no,
We
watch the
shouldn't.
movie.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, watch it. We're just giving a little sneak peek, but not too much. In your view, do you think more local films should be produced?
I think local films should be produced as much as they could be. I don't think we get enough traction outside of like UE and UTT film programs and final year films or student films. I think that it's very easy for us to market them, but we just don't get the budget for it. So I think that a lot of cinemas that we have here, especially Trin City, because Caribbean cinemas, I feel like Caribbean films could go right to them.
Right to that,
Because
yeah.
we don't have locations just in Trinidad, they have all over the
All over
Caribbean.
the Caribbean, yeah.
We're just, I think Cinemas 8 or something. But I think once local films get out there, we could get a lot more traction, a lot more sponsors for budgets, for better films, for higher production,
I also think a lot of like young persons and stuff, they kind of shy away from because it's not a big industry, especially here. So like he always wanted to do film or wasn't able to because of it. And I think if it was able to have more budget, more mainstream opportunities, a lot more people
Would be interested, yeah, would come out and see and want to learn. I think it would also help better promote culture. And I do think film is important for recording creative history, because it like preserves it for not just only for the future, but in terms of our identity, in terms of film. And then this film is interesting, come on, and I think it would, like if it was, as you said, more in the Caribbean cinema, a lot of small kids would like want to come and see it because a movie, come on, come on, it's a movie. For those that want to go into being film actors and actresses, what advice would you give them?
I feel like we are the worst people to give advice because
Okay.
we just came into this. But I would say that if they want to get into it, make sure that they get the script first, make sure they know their role, make sure they feel comfortable enough with all the scenes in it, make sure you have a good cast and crew around you. Also, make sure you learn your lines beforehand. Lines is very important. Make sure you learn your lines beforehand. Try to, practice by yourself or with your co-stars, because it's easy to a point, but then it gets kind of hazy when it's let's say it's a long script and you have a lot of lines, or some scenes it's very, very verbal. People might look at that and not want to, depending on how they are in front of a camera.
Yeah.
But I think once you have the capability and the talent for it, it's really good for you.
I also think just have fun.
I
Because I feel like if you're not enjoying it, it wouldn't look natural. It wouldn't really come across as like this is like a good actor, it's a good movie. So I think just enjoy it, have fun, make it your own as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people should look at film not just as, a camera. Yeah. It would have a lot of things involved in it, and you should try it, see if you like it, if you're interested enough, and yeah, pursue it. Give it a go. This is a bunch more mainly for the filmmakers, but in terms of actors and actresses, what was it like on set itself? Like, in terms of the challenge on site, like for the beach scenes, for example, like were there times where like it was difficult for you to like say a line or like, yeah?
I think our biggest challenge, we had an argument scene, and I think that was the scene that took the most retakes of the whole thing, because it was not sounding sincere. Like, it was very difficult for us to actually argue like we meant it, because there was like a part that's the voiceover, but then it goes back into us actually speaking. So we had to fill the voiceover part but we felt like it was something really stupid. So we were laughing in the thing, in the recording, and they were like, okay, let's make it serious. And I was like, oh, okay.
I think the original argument that we had for the voiceover film part, we screamed about cookies and milk. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cookies and milk. Interesting.
In terms of the beach too, I think one of the hardest scenes for me, I had scenes on a boat.
Oh.
And it was fun and all. However, the boat was very it was very rocky.
Rocky?
Yeah, very rocky. And I was just kind of just me and one of the camera operators. So yeah, it wasn't terrifying, but I was kind of like holding on.
On for dear life.
Yeah,
For dear life.
Yeah. And then the boat also, it's a fishing boat. So it was very, very like strong of a fish smell, a fresh fish
Oh my
smell.
goodness.
And that was not fun. But I mean, in the end, the shot looked good.
Okay,
so
good. That's
worth
the
it.
main point.
Yeah.
Shot looked good. I bet that probably a lot of showers after.
Yeah.
Yeah. To get that spell out. And I can only imagine you and you're like trying to say the line and then your boat just.
Thankfully, it was just voiceover for those
Okay.
shots. So
Okay,
I didn't have to
good.
speak. I just had to kind of exist.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. In terms of like the weather and thing, did it like affect you all in terms of certain scenes you all wanted to?
I don't think it was much the weather, more so time, because even on
Okay.
the 12-hour day, they wanted a lot of seeing sunset, but the sunsets quite quickly. So
True.
we weren't able to finish all of the sunsets in that day, and then that's how we ended up having a second beach day. But
Same thing with the boat. The boat, we had to
Oh,
come
yes.
back for that. But
Yes.
weather, I think weather was mainly fine. It was kind of cloudy on the second beach day. So that, I mean, it created a chance for the camera operators and the editors, not for us too
Ah,
much
okay.
because it was cool. It was cool
Less
outside,
sun, yeah.
less
I had
sun.
no problem.
Still a lot of sandflies and mosquitoes, but say what?
It seems like if you all had a lot of fun on this.
It was very
Film
fun. It was
project.
very fun.
Sometimes I didn't really feel,
It didn't feel like work.
yeah,
Oh.
It just felt like, you know, us and our friends just kind of hanging out,
time on the beach.
a little, you know.
Yeah.
You can ask the last question now about if they would act again.
In terms of future projects involved in the film program, would you all see yourselves acting again in other potential film projects?
I am already set for another
Oh,
film project for
okay.
next year, so yes, I don't have much of a choice. But I think, like, even willingly, I think I would, depending on, I guess, you know, story and setting and script and stuff and characters, because I don't want to take on a role that I can't resonate with. But I think I would do it again, yeah.
Okay, it seems fun.
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
It was very fun, but I think it was more relaxing for me because I had him and I knew a lot of the people on the
Be set.
the
Okay.
set. So I think it would depend a lot for me if I really like the script and like, you know, I think this would be really fun. But also, if it has a lot of lines, I'm not sure.
Oh.
Because I don't think I could remember everything. But it depends for me.
Well, it seems like the film would be very, very, I think it would be well received because it's like, and I like it. I find it's a nice narrative. I like the message, and yeah, I like the creative elements involved in it. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I think you all
Yes, of
did,
course.
and it was fun. So I can't wait to see the film.
I hope
Yeah.
people like the film.
I hope people
everyone
go
likes the
and watch
movie.
it because they put a lot of work into it and a lot of effort was placed into this type of filmmaking. So I hope everybody's enjoy it, and yeah. Thanks for watching. This is our film thing. See you all next time for the next podcast.